how's ready going. I just hope you just enjoy this last video recently. In this episode of this video, I'm going to be posting the original short story, which is called Grandfather. Some of my friends already read this story, and they just gave me such a remark like this one is very close to reality. It's very touching, and I think this story is somehow based on personal experience from a friend. I just hope you like the story. Have a good day.
33 Grandfather. It was cold as usual in Toronto today. There was no sweet sign of warmth, except some diluted, sparkling spots of sunshine in the afternoon. After Junwoo finished taking the advanced biotechnology lectures, he went back to the rented unit with a worn-out body. What an exhausting day, he thought. Junwoo received several texts this afternoon during school. He was tired and tried to ignore them. He prepared a simple dinner for himself and read the texts while he ate. The messages were from his mum, and they were long, full sentences covered the screen from top to bottom. Unfortunately, was the first word that grasped Junwoo's attention. It was as if his heart sank into an icy lake. The message informed that Junwoo's grandfather had passed away yesterday, suddenly. Junwoo's mother said at the end of the message, "Please do not be sad." She and Junwoo's father already arranged the funeral with other relatives and pray for his grandfather. After reading the text, complicated emotions rushed up and down in Junwoo's mind. He replied, 34 in the hope that it would offer comfort. Grandfather is the word for most kids who were raised in the Confucian etiquette in Korean society, which could be shaped like the symbol of grandeur and respect, as well as the spiritual connection of bloodlines in the family tree, but, for some reason, that did not relate to Junwoo's family. He only, somehow, felt estrangement about his grandfather. It was like enjoying flowers in the fog and watching the moon's reflection on the water. Something untouchable and indifferent stood between him and his grandfather. It was like a wall. In Junwoo's memory, his grandfather was chubby, optimistic, and a healthy old man. The bags under his eyes were puffy. His hair was closely cropped, and he always put on a light gray shirt with a white undershirt and dark gray pants and a pair of sandals. He always represented an image of summer suiting him best, and his hasty, influential touches of laughter had been in Junwoo's head for a long time. When Junwoo visited his grandfather's town, they went hiking in the small mountains after dinner. Grandfather took Junwoo's 3 younger female cousins, along with them if it was not raining. 35 Junwoo remembered there were only a few streets in the town. It was surrounded by mountains that were covered with pine trees. Because of the generous offerings from Mother Nature, and before the manufacturer of Ajinomoto built a site here, the whole town smelled like an essential oil of pine trees. It felt like an oxygen bar, which was filled with fit inside. There was a specialty of the town. After several hot springs were discovered, some people developed the pisciculture in them. These fish were applied to be different local dishes, combined with the local pickled cabbage, either roasted or boiled ones, and they were all very tasty and organic. During the hikes each evening, Junwoo and his cousins all followed grandfather's steps. There was fresh cow dung dotting the path. Purple and yellow wildflowers grew on either side of the narrow stone stairs. The sleepy dragonflies landed on the green bristlegrass. These were all the unique views on their hikes. At that time, kids would never grow up, and their grandfather would never grow old. Junwoo could still recall when they finally climbed up to the top of the hill where their great-great-grandmother's tomb was located. 36 The wind passed by and dried the sweat on Junwoo's forehead. The pine trees' strong fragrance spread up there. Here, their hearts were filled with an undesirable melancholy. The kids cleaned up the leaves at the tomb and wiped away the dust that covered the words on the gravestone, and their grandfather sat there and got himself into the medication. The kids ran to the pine trees and dug the Periostracum cicada at the bottom of them. As their grandfather said, it could be applied to the traditional Korean medicine and enclosed in the baby's pillows, and it could help them sleep better at night. Their grandfather used to tell them the town tales about the colossal python, which hunted humans, and there was a brave young man who tied up all the sharpest knives on him and pretended to be a bait. He seduced the python to swallow him, and the warrior killed it. Junwoo's grandfather's stories sounded like the ancient ones, and they all felt like mystical, dust-covered tales to little Junwoo. After grandfather had some liquor at dinner, his face turned red, and he murmured some glorious history about Junwoo's family, all the eminence, and the flourishing days for their lineage. 37, and his grandfather advised Junwoo repeatedly that as he was the only male descendant in their family, and that he should carry the responsibility of taking care of his younger cousins in the future. Little Junwoo did not understand his words and just took them as meaningless words of a drunk. Junwoo recalled one time, when he found a cartoon book somewhere and mimicked a character from it. His grandfather noticed the drawing and praised Junwoo without hesitation. He even said that one day, Junwoo would become a famous artist. The memories were vivid and warm in Junwoo's eyes. They were special and sincere. Junwoo did not remember when his grandfather moved to a metropolitan city. In 1997, after Junwoo and his parents finished their family trip from Jeju Island, they visited Junwoo's grandfather at his new place. Junwoo's grandfather encouraged his parents to change their jobs and move to the same city, but, for whatever reason, they changed their minds, and they did not talk to grandfather for years after that. Junwoo heard his mother say that her father was a selfish, cold person, who only said sweet words when they met, but never provided any support when they needed help, and 38 would never send any greetings or calls during the festivals. It was probable, Junwoo thought, that people could only remember the kindness and the bright sides of the person who passed away when Junwoo got the text. He could not hold the tears. All he could recall were all the positive images of his grandfather. People could not hold on to anything in the circle of life, and nothing could slow the pace of their departure from this world, Junwoo thought. He could only pray for his grandfather's happiness in the afterlife. He lighted up a lamp for his grandfather in a temple and made a wish in his heart. He hoped his grandfather could walk with pride and peace. He believed in the power of praying. On the way home this afternoon, Junwoo saw a big, yellow full moon in the sky. He could not help but gaze at it when he was on the bus and snapped a picture of it. He felt that it was a farewell from his grandfather. People miss their families at festivals. Junwoo's grandfather was born during the Seollal, which was New Year's Day, and he passed away during the Seattle Jumim, which was New Year's Eve. It felt like everything has been determined at the very beginning. It was a perfect loop. 39 Thinking of the old full moon that night, it was an enlightenment. Grandfather, Junwoo whispered in his mind, farewell. I will always remember.